What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back to bring your MLB props for Saturday, July the 16th. Yesterday, I talked about Austin Riley. He hit a home run. I talked about Luis Robert, who unfortunately left the game early with lightheadedness. Obviously wasn't feeling too well. And I talked about Bobby Witt Jr., who did get a hit off Alek Manoah and was pulled for his last at bat, to which the other player who went in struck out. So that's not great for me. But overall, I felt good about the slate, and the reason why we took those players, obviously Austin Riley bombed against Patrick Corbin. Luis Robert and the Chicago White Sox had a great game. Unfortunately, Luis Robert did leave early and couldn't take full advantage, and Bobby Witt couldn't quite overcome Alek Manoah and the Blue Jays relievers, but still a great day overall, still great picks. And I think the ideology behind this really comes down to is picking the right games, the right game environments, and this is where today comes into play, because this is another game where, I'll talk about it right now, we're going back to the well with the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers, I feel like I've picked them 3 of the last 5 games. They just keep ending up in these great game scripts, and they keep performing, up against Seattle today, and Logan Gilbert. Corey Seager is just on fire. You can see it in the chart when he's hitting home runs almost every day. He's still on fire. He's still playing super well. You see he's still got 13.46 over the last 14 days and 15.43 over the last 7 days. Marcus Semien as well, playing extremely well and scoring a lot of points. Again, the pitch value factor isn't quite as in his favor, but you see Corey Seager here just crushing fastballs at an absurd rate, and Logan Gilbert probably is not going to have much success. He's had some success versus Texas. He's only allowed 3 earned runs in 2 starts against Texas Rangers, but he's allowed 6 hits in both those games. So there's still going to be opportunity, and that was more when Texas was struggling early in the season, but now they're playing much better, much hotter team, and I'd be very willing to play Corey Seager again. You see 1.38 hits per game, over 3 total bases per game, well over an RBI per game. That's production I'm going to bank on, and that's the reason why I will definitely be playing some Corey Seager today. And then I want to talk about Ketel Marte. He's the only guy in Arizona who basically has any shot against Sean Manaea. You see the way he's playing right now, 10.33 over his last 14 over his last 7. Hit a home run last night to continue his streak of going over in 8 of his last 10 games. And so just continuing to perform at an extremely high level. The only player on Arizona with really any chance of going over. You see the projection of 5.5 and the p-val factor of 4.7, obviously driven by that fastball. It's hard to bet against Ketel Marte because of the matchup, but if you feel like maybe it's just not the right situation, or you don't really want to go all in, you just see he's hitting this number over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's one of the reasons why I do like him. I think he's a great play, projected for 10.21. Like I mentioned, he did hit a home run yesterday, but again, they're in San Diego. Not the best pitching factor or not the best park factor for Marte. Manaea has been a pretty good pitcher. I think he's a great pitcher, but he hasn't been performing at an extremely high level. They definitely play a little bit better at home, but you are banking on a little bit of all or nothing from Marte. He's a phenomenal hitter, does bat cleanup, but I think he's going to be a one-man show in this matchup. Basically, from what I'm seeing from Arizona, he's the only guy that really has any chance. He's the only one hitting overly well in this lineup right now, but I mean, it shows, right? 1.17 hits per game, 2.42 total bases per game. A lot to like with Ketel Marte. I think he's flex viable, and I think you could play him, but I would probably still stick with Austin Riley personally up against Paolo Espino, who is not good. His 1.31 pitch factor. You see Riley is still just crushing it right now. 13 over his last 14 over his last 7, 1.64 hits per game, 3.5 total bases, an RBI per game, almost a run per game, and almost an extra base hit per game. Riley's just been on a tear right now. Him, Matt Olson, Dansby Swanson, Ronald Acuna Jr., like they're all in play today. I was looking at Matt Olson. I wanted to take him. He had 3 hits yesterday. Riley hit a home run. Acuna stole a base. Like, they're all performing very, very well. And I mean, they're playing against terrible teams. Like, Washington is a god-awful team. Starting pitcher's bad. The bullpen's bad. There's just so many reasons to like them in this game. And if you really wanted to stack Atlanta, I don't hate it. It's just Riley is the one who's the hottest and popped the most in the model for me. But if you did want to stack Atlanta, I think there's a great opportunity there. And maybe pairing them with Corey Seager. And if you want to throw in Marcus Semien, I don't hate it at all. But I think Corey Seager and Austin Riley are the 2 that I'm looking at right now to really build around if I'm going to do multiple guys. I think, you power play those 2 guys, and I think you're in really good shape. 2 really good hitters, extremely hot, not crazy high projections. Now, Riley is an 8.5, which I don't love, but he hit it yesterday. He's been hitting it very consistently, so I don't hate it. It's just not quite where I want to see it. I'd love to see it 7.5, but with how good he's doing right now, Can't imagine PrizePicks would ever give me a 7.5 for Austin Riley. For Seeger, though, they are giving you 7.5 because he's been a little bit home run or bust. Not going to give you any steals, but he's been playing very well, and so I do like Seeger in this matchup as well. And then getting into Roman Laureano, the only player on Oakland with a line today, up against Justin Verlander. I'm not going there, man. Even though he's got a line of 4, very modest, very beatable. It's just, I can't do it. Not against Verlander. Oakland should get smoked in this matchup. It's not going to be close, and I'm not going to be testing Verlander in that fashion like I did with Manoah yesterday. Then let's get into some unders. A bunch of guys who seem to be a little bit overprojected today. You know, Mike Trout, number 1, 7.5. He's only got 2.33 over his last 7 days up against Julio Urias. I don't know how I feel about Trout. I mean, the under looks really good. Urias has been a very up and down pitcher, allowing a ton of hits. But again, the Angels still strike out a ton. While Urias is not a big strikeout pitcher, he can definitely get strikeouts in the right matchup. We saw Clayton Kershaw went 8 innings in only 90 pitches with 6 strikeouts and only allowed 1 hit yesterday against the Angels. So there's a lot of upside for Julio Urias to go deep in this game and have a great outing. But, you know, if you wanted to go an under for Trout, I don't hate it. You know, again, 5.11 over his last 14, 2.33 over his last 7. You just look at this game log right here, 0, 5, 2, the 129, but then like just straight zeros across the board. Trout is in another crazy slump. I just don't think I could go there with Trout. It's one of those things. The dude is so good, so talented. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, you're still looking at Seeger and Riley. If you wanted to throw Trout in there for an under, I think there's a really good shot he goes under. I just don't know if I could do it. Then you're looking at Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's been bad, frankly. I mean, as much as I love Vlad, he's not been good. You see 8 on the season, but a 6.36 over the last 14 and 4.5 over his last 7. That's why his projection is so low. I'm projected for 5.53. Up against Daniel Lynch, he's got a line of 9. Now, the reason why he has a line of 9 is because the last time Daniel Lynch pitched against the Blue Jays, he allowed 6 earned runs and 3 home runs. So that is not good for him. And I believe that game was in Kansas City. Now they're in Toronto, an even better ballpark for hitters. You see this pitch factor for Daniel Lynch is 0.67 or 7.6 because he has been performing fairly well recently. But again, he hasn't faced quite a team like the Blue Jays, especially playing at home. And after that emotional loss in game 1 of the series, they will definitely be looking to get another big win like they did last night when they won 9-1. And a lot of the guys were on yesterday. Vlad at 9, I still don't love it. I think it's still very high. You see he's only hit in 3 of his last 10 games. I don't know if he hit yesterday. I don't believe so, though. He didn't have a crazy high game. You know, he played pretty well, but it wasn't anything crazy. And then you get into Manny Machado up against Tyler Gilbert, who has been bad on the season, but in his most recent starts, he's been serviceable. You know, he hasn't allowed a ton of hits, a ton of runs, and that's why his pitch factor is relatively low, but he's not going to go deep in the game, and he is a lefty, so I did want to point that out. So up against Manny Machado, who is right-handed and does bat fairly well against lefties, so I would not be going necessarily in that direction, but Manny has been struggling quite a bit, even though he's come back, he's hit a few home runs, but overall, he hasn't been performing too well. I think I would rather target Eric Hosmer at 6.5. You see Eric Hosmer also up against, obviously, Tyler Gilbert in that ballpark with that pitch factor and still struggling quite a bit. 5 points over his last 7 days and 4.5 over his last 14. Only gone over this number in 2 of his last 10 games. Hosmer, a lefty that doesn't hit lefties particularly well, but not terrible compared to some other lefties that really only crush righties. I think that Hosmer's a guy who just, you know, he started hot, but has been pretty bad overall. The only issue is that I kind of expect San Diego to get to Tyler Gilbert at some point. And so will that be Hosmer? Will he be part of that? Or will he continue to struggle in this game? You know, you look at that further down the list, you got Jorge Soler and Wilson Contreras. Contreras has a projection of 4. I'm projected for 2. Obviously, you see this PVAL factor of -5. Max Scherzer, man possessed right now. But at the same time, regardless of the pitcher, Wilson Contreras has not hit this number in his last 6 games. So again, as much as I want to say, oh, maybe he can do it, maybe he can get there. Of course he can. It's only a number of 4. But is Max Scherzer going to be the guy to give that up? Probably not. 1.88 over his last 14, 1.4 over his last 7. I'd be willing to take the under on Wilson Contreras, hoping that all he gets is a walk or a hit only. Max is obviously going to be willing to deal in this matchup, playing at an exceptional level. Strikeouts galore. You see the fastball or the slider. Won't really matter what Max throws at him. He's going to have issues. And so for me, I think that's probably my favorite bet. Even though it's a total of 4, I will be betting on Hosmer or Contreras for unders. I don't mind Vlad or Trout, but overall, I'd be sticking with Corey Seager, Austin Riley, and probably Wilson Contreras or Eric Hosmer. Maybe you mix and match 3 or 4 of those guys. Those are the 4 guys I'm targeting today. While I love this list, I think it's still Seeger, Riley as my main power play, and then I probably do one with Contreras and one with Hosmer. That's probably how I would build my lineups personally. I just think that the way that this slate is looking out, I love Seeger, I love Riley. They both have great matchups against bad pitchers. It's just which under do you want to pair it with, because I don't really love Ketel Marte here. I don't really love Semien. Well, he could definitely go over and he'll probably hit a home run because I'm saying not to play him, but I think those are just the two guys I want to build around. I think they're just phenomenally hot, playing super well, and guys I want to target today. And then, like I mentioned, targeting some guys who are just struggling. Wilson Contreras struggling, Eric Hosmer struggling. You will need to check to see if these guys are even starting, especially on Contreras' case, because he hasn't been playing well, and so there is an opportunity that maybe he just takes a seat for a game. Don't go crazy. It's going to be all right. You'll break out of this slump, but maybe today they give him the day off. I don't know, but I would be targeting Contreras or Hosmer. So those would be my two options for unders with Corey Seager and Austin Riley. As always, if you tail, give them hell, and if we fail, do not bail. I'll be back tomorrow with more MLB picks. Make sure to drop me a like and subscribe for future content, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm out. Peace.